So today we are going to be going over the bent over row. We're going to be using all different types of kit, barbells, dumbbells. We're going to be using the bench to show you how to properly do your bent over row, the common things that people do wrong, some easy things that we can change to make sure you can feel it a little bit more, and some different variations to make sure you can feel it in different parts of your back. My name's Tom. I'm going to be showing you today how to do the bent over row. Okay, so open minds for this today. There's a bent over row. Technically, you can do it in a number of different ways. I'm going to go barbell focus to start with, just because I think that's probably the biggest movement that needs the most looking at, because it's going to be combining a couple of different movements, including your RDL, a typical hip hinge, but also it then sets us up for the basis of every other type of row. Okay, so common mistakes that we're going to see with a barbell bent over row to start with isn't actually going to be quite as much about the row. It's more about the positioning that you get into. Okay, so we're going to look at your back a little bit today as well. Other mistakes that you're going to see with this is more around the positioning of where you're rowing. Not that it's a problem, where you do your row, but if you're looking to row in a certain way and to feel it in certain parts of your body, well then we need to look at that. Okay, I'm also then going to have a little look at kind of why you would pick different bits of equipment and when to use a bench to help support your bent over row. But first up, we are going to do the barbell focus bent over row. Okay, so I've taken all the weights off today just because I am a little weakling, and really, if I put loads of weights on, I'm going to be screwed whilst doing this. So barbell bent over row to start with, the focus is going to be the hand position. Think of it as an RDL. Okay, when you get into that RDL position, I mean, even breaking it down before you get to this point, go hands on your head, back straight, and you're looking at closing. It sounds silly. Close the car door with your bum by keeping your back straight. The reason I go hands on your head is what that does is it forces you to keep your back straight. Okay, so if I show you again, go hands on your head, interlock them or go to the side, down to that position. You should feel your hamstrings, potentially if you've got tight hamstrings, switch on, and then we should be ready to go with our bent over row. Now this is the same position if you had a dumbbell in each hand, like there, if you had a kettlebell in each hand, if you wanted to do that. But I mean, for the purpose of this to start with, we're going to go barbell. Now, obviously pick it up properly, just make sure you're back straight whilst doing this. I've got the barbell into position. So first things first, make sure your hands are in the right spot. If I show you from the front, they're just past hip width. So if you've got slightly bigger hips, go slightly wider. But for me, it's there. You don't want to be out there. It's a common mistake I'm going to see. The reason for that, watch this. I'm just going up like that, and I'm not getting a lot of contraction in my back. If I go narrower, like so, what that's going to allow me to do is get further up and give me more movement and more range of motion to be able to squeeze my back and my lats. Okay, so that's the first thing. In terms of like hand position, obviously changes on the bit of kit that you're using. You can go hands over, hands under. If you want to go hands under, that'll probably be more your biceps and a little bit of forearms in there. For the purpose of this, I'm going to go hands over the top. So I'm getting back into position again, down to that RDL spot. Now, another mistake that you'll see people do is they're leaning too far back with the RDL or the hinge position. And so what will then happen is you're pulling up to your chest. And really, look, again, it depends on the type of row you want to be doing. For most people, they want to be turning on their lats and their biceps, and we want to be pulling more into their hips, okay? So if you're too far back, what's going to happen is the bar will be going in like a diagonal position, which is just not natural, and you'll end up burning your forearms and your hands out, okay? So, common fix, an easy fix for this is, when you're here, like we do with an RDL, I want you to rock forwards just slightly, keeping your back nice and straight. If you need to, cheat a little bit, go eyes forwards for a couple, okay? And then the position that we want to be pulling into here is actually into our hips, okay? Now the reason we pull into our hips is so we can feel our lats slightly more, okay? Next time when you do a bent over row, basically have a go at pulling into some different positions. Have a try at pulling into your hips, see where you feel it. What you'll find is you can squeeze and switch your lats on slightly easier. So if you want to build your back up, you can do that. if you want to do more of like a pen lay, or slightly probably if you're using a kettlebell, more of a gorilla row, you can pull straight into your chest. And what you'll find there is you'll work in the top of your back, and you'll be able to squeeze your shoulder blades together, and actually you can then feel that a lot more right up there. So again, it depends on the position that you're looking for, but for most of you guys to start with, I would rather you perfect it getting into this position, driving back. Now, that's with a barbell. I'm going to quickly grab a dumbbell for you as well. Now, I will show you with just one to start with, because it's exactly the same movement, and I'll use the other hand, kind of flap about a bit. So you're down here. Now, this is where I think actually it makes more sense to use dumbbells, because you can match the lines on your body. So if you think what your lats do, they go in that direction. So if you think it's way easier to go like this with your arms than kind of like that way, you know, it's a bit more restricted. So follow the way your lats move like this, it's way easier. So when you're doing a dumbbell bent over row in the same way that we would with a barbell, it's then a lot easier to pull back and switch on. So you'll see it's a bit more of like a pendulum movement, and it'll make it even clearer when I use the bench in a moment. Okay, so again, same thing. If you're here and you want to do more of like a pen lay, it's up and out to the side, so elbows go a bit wider. If you're here, it's narrow and drive back. Okay, so there are a couple of things you can do with this. Now, quite often you will use a bench with a bent over row. This is more for support, all right, to save your back just getting wrecked doing this, especially if you've got a slightly weaker back. And it's, I mean, I can feel, just from me being in that position quite a long time, I can feel my lower back is working, so it's pretty normal. You've got to think your core, your abs, your back is all together whilst doing that, so, you know, there's no escape. But this is probably a better one to do if you've got more sets and you want to start loading the weights up a little bit heavier without risking your back going, okay? I have got the bench set up in this position here. So if you look, there's a bit of a, what would you call that? A bit of an angle, okay? The reason I quite like an angle for this one, these benches are a little bit shorter. So, you know, you've got to play to your mechanical advantages / disadvantages. So I'm a bit taller, so I want something that's a bit higher. Okay, so what that will then allow me to do is go one hand out like this. Now, there's a whole host of different positions that you can go with this one. I mean, I could show you all of them here, but I'm going to just pick a couple. One thing I would say is just make sure that you're on the edge of the bench. So say if I'm using my right arm to do the row, what I don't want to happen is be the whole way over this side and be kind of leant over. You know, if I'm there and I'm swinging and I'm hitting the bench, it's just going to get in the way. So let's say if I'm using my right arm, my left hand is at the side of this bench. On this one, I'm thinking about a tripod position. Now, I always like this side foot to come out a bit further back, like that, okay? So if we think here, if my foot is back here, it's giving me more space to create that angle and drive back. If my foot is forwards, not a problem, but it just changes the way you do your row. And it swaps it to slightly more top of your back focused up there, compared to if my foot's back and there's a bit more of a split stance, that allows me to roll it back and you'll feel it slightly more in your lats. So again, you've got to think about why you're doing each of those different movements, okay? So again, if you want to go slightly more top of your back, driving through here, you go up, more of a stable, one foot in line with the other stance. If you want to go more lat focus, spread your legs, go a bit wider, keep them narrower and go a bit of a longer step back, and you're driving up. And look at this. This is the most important bit with your row. You are arcing the dumbbell. One of my old coaches used to say to me, it should feel like you're almost swinging it. Again, to a point. I'm not literally just going like that. That's not the point. This is, you're starting slightly further forwards and you're driving it all the way back into your hip. If you look at that position there, it's right in line with my hip. You drive back, control down slowly, and to there, okay? So there are a few different variations you can do with that. Sorry, it's quite warm in here, so I'm cooking nicely. The last one, which you will see, is with a fully flat bench, okay? Fully flat, and that's, again, you know, if you're changing exercises quickly, if you've got like maybe some leg focus stuff that needs the bench, this is what you probably want it at. The reason I will show you this here, and I don't always like to do it on these lower benches just because of the spacing. This is the position you're going to be getting into. Again, it's a bit of a tripod. So one leg is out to the side. Look how wide that leg is. That's purely for stability. One hand is right at the front of the bench. One knee is at the back of the bench, and they're in line. Again, they're not at that side of the bench because if I'm over here, I'm just going to be all over the place. It's there. And then look, I've then got the ability with a stable stance, low to the ground, strong base, to probably go a little bit heavier because I'm not having to rely on my lower back again, and I can drive up. Now you will struggle to hit your lat, you know, doing that swinging motion in that position, just because your hip is likely to get in the way, but you can still do it, okay? It's not the end of the world. But just think, if you want to go top of your back, you drive more in a straight line. If you want to go lats, you swing it slightly more. All of these, you will feel your biceps working. There's no way of kind of getting around it. So, I've gone through quite a few common mistakes, quite a few fixes, quite a few technique bits in there. Hopefully you found it helpful. Remember, you've got to know why you're doing the movement before you can realize if it's right or wrong. The basics are keep back straight, slow the movements down, go light from the weight, think about why you're doing it, and if you can do that, you should then be able to adjust the exercise and then actually know and get something out of it each time. Hopefully you found that helpful. I will speak to you all very soon.